This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
الأمريكي في بيان له أن جنديا من مشاة البحرية الأمريكية المارينز قتل في عمليات حربية في غرب العراق أمس. وفي الطارمية تعرض مقر القوات الأمريكية.
According to the U.S. Army, an American Marine was killed yesterday in a military offensive in western Baghdad. In addition, fierce clashes have erupted between dozens of armed men and the U.S. forces after an American military base in Arabiya was attacked by 3 booby-trapped cars. Moreover, a booby-trapped vehicle exploded near the home of the commander of the Iraqi army in Al-Iraqiya, killing 5 Iraqi soldiers and injuring 10 others. According to medical sources in Fallujah, 4 Iraqis were killed by U.S. snipers. Meanwhile, the U.S. Army announced that it has arrested 2 armed men from the militias of Al-Mahdi army in the city of Sadr. The U.S. Army said that it had killed 6 armed men and dismantled a booby-trapped vehicle in Tikrit. Also in Tikrit, a group of armed men launched an attack on a security checkpoint, killing 3 Iraqi police officers and injuring 4 others. Meanwhile, Zalmay Khalilzad, the U.S. ambassador to Iraq, said that securing the Iraqi capital will not be done overnight. He added that his country will work in conjunction with the Iraqi government to pursue what he described as those committing heinous acts against the Iraqi people and coalition forces. The Iraqi government condemned yesterday's bomb attacks, which have killed and wounded more than 150 people in Baghdad. Today, dozens of Iraqi civilians were killed and wounded in various attacks in Baghdad and Ramadi.
The attacks on Iraqi civilians in the area of Qarada have brought with them bad news. They came just 6 days after Iraq's new security plan in Baghdad went into effect. A bomb was detonated in a minibus in the area of Qarada in central Baghdad, killing 5 passengers and injuring 11 others. In the worst attacks since the new security plan went into effect in Baghdad, 3 booby-trapped vehicles exploded, killing 60 people and injuring 100 others. The Iraqi government condemned the attacks and vowed to free Baghdad from what it described as terror networks. It added that the criminals and the terrorists didn't want life in Baghdad to return to normal, hence these attacks. In the western city of Ramadi, a booby-trapped car exploded at a security checkpoint near the home of Abed Star Rishawi, the head of the so-called Anbar Salvation Council, killing 11 people, including 5 officers, and wounding 4 security officers who were standing guard in front of Rishawi's home. Rishawi is leading a government-backed campaign to fight armed groups in the Anbar province. The city of Ramadi, which has not seen security since the U.S.-led invasion in Iraq in 2003, has witnessed fierce confrontation between armed groups and the U.S. military forces, killing 6 civilians and injuring 8 others. Following the attacks, the Iraqi security and U.S. military forces closed off the city of Ramadi and imposed travel restrictions inside of it. According to a media source, the life in Ramadi has become partially paralyzed. This news comes amidst growing criticism against the Iraqi government and parliament for continuing to ignore the residents' complaints.
Iraq's Ministry of Immigration and Displacement said that it has put together extensive programs to help displaced Iraqi families return to their homes.
The ministry said that these programs came in the context of the new Baghdad security plan.
As part of the new security plan, the Iraqi government has delegated several responsibilities to its ministerial departments. The ongoing forceful migration of Iraqi families is one of the troubling issues that the leadership in Iraq is trying to resolve.
The Iraqi Ministry of Immigration and Displacement has a specific duty which comes in the context of the new Baghdad security plan. We designated February 15th as a deadline to evict the squatters from the homes. The refugees will be allowed to return to their homes once the security forces declare the city safe and secure. We have to reassure the refugees and help them get rid of their fear in order for them to return to their homes.
According to Iraq's Minister of Immigration and Displacement, the displaced families can be divided into three groups. The first group includes those families that are ready and able to return to their homes. The second group needs government support, and the third group needs social support.
The third group includes those people who have lost a family member or have been victims of violent crimes. We need to offer them counseling and help them make a smooth transition back into society. Many government and public institutions can offer counseling to these families.
Some of the displaced families said that they will not return to their homes unless their safety and security are guaranteed.
I'm from the area of Abu Masir. They gave us 7 days to leave our homes. Our home is now vacant. We are now paying $250 a month. We do not deserve to be treated like this. Why did they force us out of our home? We demand our rights, including the right to return home.
We are living in tents that do not have electricity and water services. We are homeless.
Iraq's government ministers, including the Ministry of Immigration and Displacement, are committed to implementing the new security plan, hoping that with the help of the Iraqi people, they will be able to get rid of the terrorists once and for all.
The Israeli driver who was murdered today in the village of Shukba near the settlement of Kiryat Sefer in the West Bank has yet to be identified. The driver entered the village in his truck. He was found near his vehicle with stab wounds to his neck and died of his injuries soon after. His wallet and personal identification were not found. The motive for the murder is still unclear, nor is it known why he entered the village. The three-way summit between U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, and PA Chairman Mahmoud Abbas took place today in Jerusalem. There was no breakthrough, but Rice promised to continue efforts to advance the peace process. Joining us now live from our Tel Aviv studio is IBA's diplomatic correspondent, Leah Zinder. Leah, this morning the three-way summit between Rice, Prime Minister Olmert, and PA Chairman Mahmoud Abbas took place as scheduled. Were there any surprises?
No, Laura, but that wasn't surprising at all. It was clear to all three participants in the summit that its only success could be the fact that it took place at all. All three of the participants represent governments that are embattled and weakened. In Abbas's case, of course, he represents no government at all, since that has yet to be formed. At the David Citadel Hotel in Jerusalem, the three spoke privately. Israeli officials, the main aim of Israel and Washington was to show support for Abbas in the hope that that will somehow translate into pressure on Hamas to accept the International Quartet principles. After those private talks, the three were joined by other officials for a luncheon meeting, and there Defense Minister Amir Peretz brought up the freeing of kidnapped IDF soldier Gilad Shalit, which Israel has declared another condition for recognizing the PA government in addition to the quartet benchmark. Peretz also discussed with the Palestinians at that meeting the ongoing Qassam rocket attacks and the smuggling of weapons from Egypt into Gaza. Immediately after that luncheon meeting, Prime Minister Olmert went to the Knesset where he addressed his Kadima Party caucus, and he reported on the summit. He expressed at some length his appreciation of the steadfast U.S. support for Israel's position vis-à-vis the Palestinian government. Olmert stressed that he will continue to maintain a bilateral dialogue with Abbas, whom he called the Palestinian president, and he said Abbas has a direct mandate from the Palestinian people and is not part of its government. Olmert said Israel would continue its efforts to improve the quality of life of the Palestinian people, a hint at further humanitarian gestures towards the Palestinians, again designed to bolster Abbas and try to keep what's left of the so-called ceasefire still standing.
Back now to this morning's summit, IBA's Eli Walgalernter was in the Knesset and asked MKs whether the three-way meeting had any real value.
Of course not. This is a meeting for pictures. This is not a real negotiation on between Israel and the Palestinians.
The question mark that we have, that some of us have, is whether those summit meetings are conducive to any kind of progress, or if the importance is only because they're happening. I would like to see these meetings lead to somewhere, and we don't have answers on that.
Rather than scolding Abu Mazen for not delivering the goods, rather than tell him that the government must meet all the quartet demands, rather than the security demands of Israel to stop the rockets on Sderot, to release Gilad Shalit, and to give Abu Mazen a mandate to negotiate with Israel on a political solution, I think that we are repeating impossible demands which will do nothing.
Palestinian reactions to today's three-way summit were predictably mixed, with Abbas supporters calling the U.S.-Israel PA meeting a positive step toward a two-state solution, and Hamas opposed to what it termed U.S. meddling in Palestinian affairs.
I think now time is of the essence. The negotiations is under the jurisdiction of the President of the PLO, and I don't think there anything that should stop us from trying to open a quiet channel in order to probe the possibility of implementing President Bush's vision for a two-state solution, to move from the squares of visions to a realistic political track, to move from the squares of words to deeds, because creating the political horizons is the most important thing for Palestinians and Israelis in the region.
I still believe that the United States is standing against the Palestinian people. I hope that they will change their position, because now there is a new situation. There is one political program. There is one national unity government, and the Palestinians now became unified under one umbrella. So if the United States think that they can stand against the Palestinian people, they put themselves in the other side against the whole Palestinian faction, the whole Palestinian people. So this will lead to that United States, they will lose their credibility in the Middle East more and more.
While the summit was underway, IBA's Dan Dyker was in Ramallah today speaking with Palestinian officials and joins us now in the studio. Dan, how is Abu Mazen's inner circle reacting to today's summit?
Laura, Abu Mazen's advisors with whom I spoke with today were phlegmatic about today's meeting. They were not particularly optimistic, and the word was this: there is no government guideline, as our diplomatic reporter Leah Zinder said, that governs a relationship between the Hamas and the Fatah. What we had seen in Mecca just 10 days ago was an agreement of the Hamas and the Fatah to create unity between them, meaning not to attack each other. But there are no government guidelines that came out of that. So that's the big question mark, say Fatah officials this morning. What is going to govern this national unity government? It's undecided. So therefore, until they know that, they say there's really nothing that's going to come out of this summit. The second issue that they raised, they said this: until the American-Iranian issue, that's what they called it, the American-Iranian issue is solved, nothing is going to move forward on the Palestinian track. That's the bottom line for Fatah officials this morning.
U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice announced that she intends to return to the Middle East soon, following the three-way summit in which she met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Rice said that the two parties have agreed to continue the peace negotiations under the sponsorship of the U.S. and on the basis of the two-state solution.
The three-way summit did not lead to any specific agreement, but according to Rice, it opened the door for resuming the peace negotiations.
It was a useful and productive meeting. All three of us affirmed our commitment to a two-state solution, agreed that a Palestinian state cannot be born of violence and terror, and reiterated our acceptance of previous agreements and obligations, including the roadmap. The President and the Prime Minister discussed how to move forward on mutual obligations in the roadmap in regard to the implementation of Phase 1.
Participants in the summit addressed different issues at 3 different levels. First, the nature of the Palestinian-Israeli relations following the formation of the unity government. Second, following up on unresolved issues and the possibility of Israel returning Palestinian withheld funds, in addition to the issue of war prisoners and security arrangements. Third, they discussed the mechanism by which to resume the negotiations for the so-called final solution through the so-called secret or backdoor channels which stopped since the eruption of the Second Intifada in 2000.
We have little expectations from this summit, and it did not produce anything tangible. The only thing it did was to create a nice environment and an opportunity to continue the negotiations. Israel and the U.S. said that the Palestinian government must accept the conditions that were imposed by the Quartet Committee. Abu Mazen confirmed that the goal of the Mecca summit was to stop the bloodshed among the Palestinians.
Rice's statement about the summit between her, Olmert, and Abbas left the door open for the Palestinians despite the declared U.S.-Israeli position towards the coming Palestinian unity government.
Palestinians in Gaza are positive that the three-way summit in Jerusalem was stillborn and that the American effort to revive it will not work. They believe that this was due to the preset American and Israeli conditions that were announced before the summit. Among other conditions, these conditions pertain to the Palestinian unity government, as well as to recognizing Israel. Zuhri Sakala reports from Gaza.
The three-way summit between Abbas, Olmert and Rice has gained significant media attention because of its timing. Palestinians want to see an end to the international boycott so they can receive international aid. However, they believe that this three-way summit was dead upon arrival.
If Rice, who is sponsoring this summit and claims that she is trying to find solutions to the Palestinian question, says that she has no solutions and that she has little hope that this summit will succeed, then what do you expect the Palestinians to say?
The Quartet Committee insists that the Palestinian government first implement previous conditions. What made matters worse are the comments that were made by some of the delegates in the three-way summit, in which they expressed that nothing new will come out of it, as well as the possibility that the new Palestinian unity government may collapse due to the American and Israeli strict positions towards Hamas.
If we have confidence in our government and support it, then this will give a very positive impression to the international community. It shows that the president, government, and the people are united. This will force everyone abroad to respect us.
Palestinians have put significant amount of hope on the unity government. Ending the international boycott and providing internal security are the most important demands for the Palestinians. However, the position that the international community has already taken towards the upcoming government will make it difficult to end the international boycott. This explains why Palestinians have put internal security on the top of their agenda. The Israeli occupation continues in its repressive strategies against the people of the Golan by stealing their natural resources, an action that goes against all international laws and treaties. Yusuf Al-Muhammad reports.
أخيرا وصلنا إلى التل. هكذا لابد أن يقول السائر في برية الشام عندما يصل إلى الجولان.
We have finally arrived at the mount, a statement uttered by passerbys in the Levant when they reach the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights stand tall and proud, reclining on the shoulders of Al-Sheikh mountain. Its occupied section includes 5 villages: Majd al-Shams, Mis'ada, Bukhatha, Ain Qinya, and Ghajar. Over 20,000 people inhabit this area. These Syrian Arabs have long resisted the tactics of tyranny tyranny and repression used by the occupying forces. The occupiers' strategies of persecution are not just limited to direct repression towards the Syrian Arabs in the Golan, but if we contemplate the water problem in the Golan, we come face to face with unbelievable circumstances. The Israeli occupation uses many creative ways of obstructing the water from reaching the inhabitants of this land. Not only do they steal the water, but they also resell it to its legal owners.
فهو لا يكتفي بسرقتها بل يعيد بيعها لأهلها.
We built the metal water reservoirs at a cost of $30,000 each. We use them to gather rainwater in the winter, and the Jews come and charge us for the water we fill. We are paying a fine because we are prohibited from filling the water in the reservoirs because they claim that the water was headed to Lake Tiberias. They make us pay for it a second time.
The brutality of the occupation is enormous and is visible everywhere.
قضية الزراعة بالطبع بدها ري ومي منيح. نحن كأحدى وسائل الري اللي عندنا.
Agriculture requires sufficient water and proper irrigation. Due to the confiscation of our water, we had to build metal reservoirs to collect rainwater in the winter. Sadly and ironically, the occupation forces fired bullets at the containers. They claim that the water in the reservoir negatively affects underground water levels.
The Golan Heights has an abundance of water and is considered as one of the most important water resources in the region. One of the crimes committed by the Israeli occupation is to regulate each drop of water used by the Syrian Arabs in this area.
It is known that the Golan is rich in water. It served as a large water reservoir for its inhabitants. The water that is collected in the ground depends on the water flown from a Sheikh mountain, which collects in underground water basins. The water that is collected in the ground depends on the water flowing from a Sheikh mountain, which collects in underground water basins. The occupying forces started digging up artesian wells, extracting the water and selling it to the people.
The situation in North Golan is different because the land there is rich with springs and water resources. But unfortunately, the inhabitants of these 5 villages suffer from water shortages due to the occupation's policies since 1967. Which include the confiscation of land and important water resources like the Ram Pond.
In addition to its water resources, the Golan Heights are of great importance because of its strategic location that overlooks and controls from all directions vast areas of land. For a long time, the occupation aimed at controlling this area, which is part of the occupied Arab territories that will resist and persevere until the light of liberty shines in them brightly again. Peace be upon Majd al-Shams and its sister villages.
يوسف المحمود التلفزيون العربي السوري مجد الشمس الجولان المحتل.
أهلا بكم من جديد إلى المدار.
Our country's oil and gas reserves will be depleted one day. Thus, our nuclear program is about the future and the path of Iran. This is how Iranian spiritual leader Ali Khamenei expressed his complete support for his country's nuclear program. With this understanding, Iran is carrying out its 3rd military maneuver as part of a series of military trainings in less than 4 weeks. Dozens of its ground brigades are participating. At this point, Tehran confirmed that it will not agree to the United Nations Security Council demand to suspend uranium enrichment.
3 days before the passing of the UN Security Council's deadline for Iran to stop enriching uranium or face international sanctions, the Iranian authorities renewed its absolute rejection of suspending its nuclear activities, ignoring the sanctions that the West is threatening to impose. Iran confirmed that it is prepared to respond with force to any attempt to attack the Islamic Republic.
The sanctions are unacceptable. It is impossible to implement them on the ground. This is an issue of the past and it has no legal or logical basis.
Despite the American administration's repeated confirmations that it does not have any plan for a military attack against Iran aimed at weakening its nuclear capabilities, Iranians have kept their eyes wide open ever since Iran decided to move forward in challenging the West. In addition to observing all the American military and political tactics and maneuvers in the region, Iran is making a military show of force in preparation for any emergency. The latest naval and air exercises will tomorrow include ground forces in a new military maneuver, the third one in 4 weeks. This military exercise, dubbed Grand, includes 16 regions with the participation of 20 brigades from the Iranian army. In conjunction to these military preparations, Iran and Syria, which the U.S. accuses of being behind the disturbances in Iraq and Lebanon, confirmed that they will not fall into the trap of ethnic and religious division set by Washington to create instability in the Middle East. At the end of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's 2-day visit to Tehran, the Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and the Syrian President Assad confirmed their complete support confronting what they called American and Israeli plots for the Islamic world. Observers say that a message is being sent by Assad and Ahmadinejad to the American administration. This message declares that Damascus and Tehran, whose influence in the Middle East region Washington wants to reduce, will remain the main players there. In addition, any political process aimed at improving the situation in Iraq or Lebanon will not succeed if they are left out of the equation. This is the same conclusion that was reached by the Baker-Hamilton report, which recommended that the U.S. administration open channels of communication with Syria and Iran to resolve the situation in Iraq. According to the American point of view, these two countries, which share a geography and history with Iraq, can never be removed from the political equation, especially in the redrawing of the essential features of the greater Middle East.
Secretary General Said Hassan Nassrallah, in a speech yesterday, did not mention the issue of the International Tribunal. The March 14th Alliance told the Lebanese Daily Nahar that Nasrallah's act brought back to mind what the head of the Democratic Gathering, MP Walid Jumlat, had earlier said about Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, telling House Speaker Nabih Berri that he did not want to hear a word about the tribunal. Speaking in the annual commemoration of the killing of Hezbollah's former chief, Abbas Mousawi, and Sheikh Gharib Harib, Nassrallah criticized the army for seizing his group's weapons. Yumna Tiyara has the details.
Hezbollah Secretary General Said Hassan Nasrallah vowed that his group would keep its arms despite internal and international pressure, stressing that his group would not be drawn to a confrontation with the UNIFIL peacekeeping force deployed in southern Lebanon. Nasrallah was addressing hundreds of supporters in a memorial held in Beirut for two of its former leaders, Sheikh Gharib Harib and Sayyid Abbas al-Mousawi. Both were assassinated by Israel on the same day, February 16, but in different years, Harib in 1984 and Mousawi in 1992. Nasrallah explained that Hezbollah had a right to carry arms and that it was not ashamed of that and it was not ready to offer excuses for it. According to Nasrallah, it was a right that has been legitimized by divine religions, prophets and human society throughout history. Nasrallah stressed that Hezbollah would not forgive anyone that would confiscate a bullet, expressing his readiness to provide the army with all the weapons that it would require. Last week, Lebanese authorities seized a truck full of weapons belonging to Hezbollah near Beirut. Defense Minister Al-Mur later said the army will use the seized weapons to fight Israel in case of any future violation of Lebanese sovereignty. Nasrallah, meanwhile, compared the current political crisis with the summer war against Israel. He explained, however, that they were facing it with different methods, promising his supporters that the opposition would emerge victorious sooner or later. The Hezbollah chief further said that his group trusted its allies, welcoming any bilateral meeting that might occur between two leaders, in reference to an expected meeting between House Speaker Nabih Berri and head of the future bloc, MP Saad al-Hariri. He meanwhile said that the dialogue table was not useful, as statements would be a repetition of comments made public. He criticized some parties in the March 14th alliance, claiming that they do not want a solution, as they were backed by external forces that wanted a different fate for Lebanon.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.